session has ended. Well, that's fine. I don't need that anyway, because we are live. This is From A to B, presented to you by awesomemo.com. Tuesday Mailbag edition. I'm Andrew. That's Ben. Citadel hoodie, huh?
Yeah, I've moved it into the rotation. It's so comfortable, and it's freezing here. Winter clothes.
Yeah. You gotta Citadel. We had a long... Did you catch this? This was well after you were in bed, but we have like an internal staff chat going. And at one point, Adam and Lofty and I were talking about like our, like what we wear now versus what we did when we were, just like when you work from home and you're just sitting at home all day, it's like really hard sometimes to not, to like not just wear sweatpants all day. Like,
that's a bad. One thing I do that's important, not just because of DFS, but I make it a point to get up and make like I'm going to work, even if I'm not leaving the house. I've seen sharp people I'm sure you probably know this, Harala Bob.
Yeah, that's where I got that from.
Okay, yeah, that's where I got it too. Like you want to make sure you're.
Yeah, he's like, I get up, I comb my hair, I take a shower, I pretend I'm gonna see a bunch of people, even if I'm not. It's like,
absolutely,
that's brilliant advice.
Yes. If you don't do that, it can get slippery.
Yeah, and every once in a while I have a day where it's like, oh, I just don't feel, I'm like, don't do that.
Look how disheveled I look right now, but...
Yeah, but it's very easy to do that like all the time, and it's like, wow, I'm showering at 8 o'clock at night. Like, I don't know. Some days it does get, because this job, I will say one thing, yeah, we work from home and blah, but it's a busier job than I think people sometimes will give it credit for. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you got to do throughout the day, so it's not like we're messing around all the time. But we are going to mess around today. Can you talk for a second? Sorry, my dog is escaping her cone.
Oh, wow. Looks like quite a situation over there. Yeah. Obviously, as everyone knows, if you're watching the show, golf is in the quote-unquote off-season. December is the 1 month where it's somewhat slow. There is a Euro event. We're going to talk about it very briefly. But we didn't want to do a full show full of Euro golf. We've been doing these mailbags. It's been fun. So we're going to do another one. We got some questions, that we accumulated from chat earlier in the week. We also, we talked a couple topics that we want to just get into a little more expansive besides the Q&A. But obviously, chat, if you have questions, drop them in there during the show. We'll add them into the queue and we'll get going.
Yes, sir. Sounds like a good time. Dave Clark, thank you for understanding. Yeah, it is a lot of, whatever. It's a lot of different stuff. But there's a lot of different busy work when you're writing or posting projections or whatever. And the phone, I'm not a great multitasker. And like, I get a little, not a little. It kind of bothers me. My phone, the phone is just constantly buzzing because you got push notification from this thing or another, whatever. It's like, it's important. It's what we do. It's like, I love doing it, but it does get a little overwhelming how often you're being pulled in certain directions. So, yeah, man. We also had a topic of, a kind of random topic we felt like getting into as well, which is going to be our favorite TV comedies. Seems like a fun thing to do. We were talking with some other friends about, Seinfeld and its greatness and how it changes throughout your life, your appreciation of it last night. So it inspired us to make that something that we're going to get into. So those of you following along in chat, feel free to drop takes if you got questions.
Yeah, we want these takes. Yeah. What do you want to start with? We have the game last night. We have the golf. We have a couple main topics, and then we have our Q&A. Where do you want to go?
I'd say let's start with the game last night, right? Couple 5 minutes, People love to talk about Showdown. We got a lot of viewers yesterday. Thank you all for checking it out.
It was a good slate. That was a good game. The game itself was horribly to watch.
Yeah.
But, I was happy with the outcome as not to victory lap myself. But I said Seattle in the under. That was good. They controlled the clock, leaned on the defense. Unfortunately, it translated to a middling Showdown result for me, which is but I just didn't have the right combo of... and the chop was gigantic. I don't know if you saw it up top. It was not a great one.
I think we got both of us, we were kind of in agreement on how the game would play out, and we were pretty much correct in that. The problem was, for me anyway, because I had a lot of Carson captain with Seahawks defense, but thinking, okay, that means, if that's working, which it did pretty well, then the Vikings are going to have to throw the ball a lot, and they sort of did, but were awful at. Like, both teams were so bad throwing the ball last night. That was one of the worst Russ games I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, that throw, I know it was a bad situation, but that throw before halftime was
horrible.
Like, he's lucky that guy didn't fall down. He fell down because that was going for a touchdown.
Easily.
It was bad. Cousins is just...
He's so bad, dude. And he made he did a Cousins-y stuff. He made a couple good throws, but yeah, just both of them just airballing it by people deep. And that's why both of those guys are fun fantasy quarterbacks, because they'll take shots. But
oh yeah,
goddamn,
you see it. You see the upside even in a game like that. You could see it's just, my God, was that ugly?
Yeah. And that's what, it was almost like the same thing happened on Sunday night, where it was like I had a lot of, like my best teams were sort of Jordan Howard with some sort of like Bears defense combo, but like Goff was so bad that it like didn't help. I didn't get the pieces around that right because the opposing quarterback was so bad from the stifling defense. Same thing happened with Cousins last night. And you see, it was funny. Like I watched the whole game and was listening along to the commentators. I had like Celtics on the side, but they were talking so much about the that guy Coach Flip, the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, and how he was this like rising young star and like how awesome he was. And then this morning he gets fired.
No. Yeah, it's I mean, it was just so sluggish. You got to find a way to generate some offense. But we have another one. I mean, obviously, Thursday we will be on with the other fella, Chargers Chiefs. Just big showdowns coming up. These are great games. Shame they're not on the main slate. Yeah, that's a great game.
That'll be fun.
It will.
And actually, I mean, I did look at it this morning. Thankfully, like it's, Gordon and Eckler are out. Justin Jackson will be overwhelming chalk, but he was not 4K. I was a little worried about that. He's 6,800. So it's still like, you're going to have to make some decisions in that. Like, you basically cannot play Mahomes, Rivers, Reek, and Keenan Allen. Like, it's just about impossible. So that's helpful.
No. Yeah, obviously, I haven't looked too hard. We'll have plenty of time to get into that, but yeah, it's going to be a good one. We did have, right off the bat, we'll put it right at the top before we jump into all this other stuff, a good question, a really interesting question from chat, from Nate, who said he's been playing just cash, doing well, looking into tourneys. How many, if he's starting low, how many lineups do you think is a minimum for large entry tournaments?
I would start small. I would get used to the process. MME takes a while to get used to, and it's very different. It's going to take a while to get used to if you start playing smaller too, but I would recommend starting by, building by hand, doing 3 max kind of stuff, keeping it simple, because you don't want to... MME gets really hairy when especially in NBA, like if news breaks 5 minutes before, like you got to know what you're doing or you're going to get into some trouble. Like last night is a disaster slate to play MME if you've never done it before. So I would start off by hand, play 3 lineups, make sure, you get the basics down, right? You play the guys that are going to be in the later games in the most open spots, right? In the more utilitarian, the util type spots. So that you have room to make changes later.
Yeah. Each sport obviously it's a different animal in MME. Generally what I would say, I obviously agree you want to start small. If you're really looking though, 3 max is so it's only 3 entries obviously. I would say if you're looking to really eventually build up to where you're making, say 100 lineups, 20 max, that's a good intermediary. You can find some good ones where you're not going against 150. You can build, 10, 15, and you kind of test your waters there. It's a portfolio style, but you're still getting 5% intervals if you do build the entire 20. So that's a nice middle ground to start because it's not going to be, that's a totally different skill set than cash, obviously.
Yeah. One thing I think people don't understand super well, too, which is like I find to be a pretty, if you're really being super selective about what you're playing and you're going to do some single entries, that's almost the place to be the biggest psycho in the single entry stuff, because people are very conservative in those. A lot of people, myself included, I'll do it like if I'm doing, because I play a lot, so I'll put the, if I do the bulk enter kind of thing and it's just like +1 to all, sometimes I end up throwing my cash lineup into all the single entries too. But if I'm specifically looking for a single entry play, like, yeah, people throw their cash lineups in those, so you can get, there's even more leverage if you're willing to go against the grain a little bit.
When you are, obviously, so think about it like this: when you have a chalk play, the higher he's owned, the more incentive you have to fade him, and the highest they're owned, obviously, is in double ups and stuff like that. But take that away, is in tournaments where people only have limited options. So in a single entry tournament, most people are like, well, I don't want to, I got to play the obvious guy there. He's even more inflated. That's honestly the best spot to fade him, to be honest. And I know it seems counterintuitive because you're like, I only have one entry. It's all or nothing. Like, if this chalk play hits, and usually, as we say every time, more likely than not, he will.
Right.
You're going to be in trouble. But the times that he doesn't, instead of killing 40% of the field, it could be 60% of the field in a single entry.
Right. People get nervous about bullets, basically, and it's not a great, you got to play it the way you would anything else, and it's much easier when you have a bigger pool, right? When you've got 50 lineups, it's like, okay, I can take a couple shots on this random guy, but like really where you get the crazy leverage is taking the random shot in the bullet. I mean, our boss is very aggressive in doing that and very good at it. Like, that's one of he will play a crazy fucking lineup in a single entry. Just it's part of his portfolio, and I think a lot of people get really, really conservative in those.
Definitely.
Because you get scared to lose the money, and the weirder you're willing to be, the better the payoff is down the road.
And that's where knowing what the tournament structure is important, because you don't need to say it's 100-man single entry. Well, you don't need to take someone so outrageous to be 1%. You can take someone a little off the grid and be 1%. Right. And that's knowing how aggressive you have to be, because there's a fine line of like, obviously we both play a ton of golf, and like in golf, you don't need to take this like ridiculous guy that no one's ever heard of in 100-person field to be unique. You can take a middling guy and be one of a couple people to play him.
Right. You do this week, though, fella. That's a good segue. I looked through this. It's a 142-person field, and I just glanced through it. Literally play DFS golf and analyze DFS golf for my living. Like, that is a big part of what I do in my life. I, at a glance, had heard of 57 of these people.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little over that, but there's a lot of guys. You should have seen it last week, because it was 240 guys.
I didn't even know there was anything last week until I saw the, like, Charles' dream has been dashed on Roto World. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
I mean, real quick, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. Alfred Dunhill, it's another South African tournament. There's going to be a ton of South Africans in it. I think on a macro level, it's good to play guys. They're used to conditions down there. Some names up top you're going to know. You got Usti, you got Charles, you got Grace, Fratelli, Stone. A guy like Jocko, things like that. I don't really, the course is not outrageous. It's got some Gary Player feel to it, they say. Kikuya. It's not a time to really get too unique. It's same story. Ball strikers, look at the weather. I like guys who have played down there in form. This is the last tournament of the year for the Euro Tour.
Yep.
It's just not a great tournament in any, and the prize pools are not great either.
No, and it's one of the weakest fields. Like, when I did a lot of my stuff to get my golf model set up, it was a lot of comparing one tournament to another, just trying to find a basically overall field strength of it. And this is like, I want to say it's this. I don't know. This is definitely one of the top three between like the Euro, the Web, and the PGA Tour of like absolute worst tournaments out there as far as field strength goes. But there's a few names here. I don't know, anybody that stands out to you, or do you just want to
I mean, I think this is just an important thing to note, and then I promise we'll get back to the Q&A, because people are probably wondering what the hell this is. Bernd Wiesberger, he's a quality golfer. He's not an elite PGA player, but he's definitely one of the better Euros. He's only 7,300. He's coming back from, it's been like 6-7 months layoff. He's played twice. He's played bad. You're going to end up getting him in a buy low spot here if you think this is where he gets into it. I have no idea, but he would be 10,000 in this field if he was coming in healthy. No doubt about it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned him actually, because remember when I had the big confusion on a show like a month ago about Bronson Burgoon?
Yeah.
And I was like, I swear he started over in Europe and was like crushing. I had combined Bronson Burgoon and Bernd Wiesberger into one person.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah, he's. I mean, there's guys like Justin Walters comes to mind, 6,900. These are just flyers. He's a South African guy, has some major upside. In all honesty, if you're playing it, jump in the golf channel. We have sharp subs in addition, to obviously us talking about it.
Yeah, our boy Shock is just like next level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if you're willing to put in a lot of time on a tournament like this, you're gonna, you can find some edges. It's just very hard with the lack of news and the lack of tournaments to really make a big splash.
Yeah, I will say if you're interested in golf, because it's 3 weeks, and then we're back into golf every week until Thanksgiving. Oh God. But yeah, if you're into the idea of trying it out this year, which you should. It's a higher EV sport than some of the other ones, I would say, for sure. If you're willing to put the time in. There's the $5 tournament has 4,700 entries in. It's $5K to first. Like it's not a trash tournament. Solid. That's a decent something to check it out, just so you get used to the format, get used to the sweat, what it's like, get an idea of how to roster players. I'd check it out. I'm probably gonna. I honestly didn't even know there was a tournament this week until you mentioned it last night. But I will. I'm probably gonna throw some stuff into there just because it's fun. The only drawback during football season is or really during any, is like when you have 150 lineups clogging up your page. Especially if you had a bad through the cut week, because then they're still on your page all weekend.
That's what I want to say. Euro, keep in mind, it's only top 65 in ties. So it's even harder. 6 of 6 over there. I mean, last week, 2 of 6, 3 of 6 was battling. It's very difficult. So this is it's an extreme test. If you can get even 5 of 6 through in a lot of these Euro events, you're in good shape.
Whoa.
What happened?
The 100K bet ends early. The bathroom bet. It's over.
Oh, he gave up?
But they settled.
Interesting.
Oh. Dan dropped a Bales tweet to a story. From Darren Ravel, giant star of his world.
Interesting.
They settled on 62,000.
Wow.
All right. Well, that was a weird bet. We did talk about that on this show, but the idea was 30 days in complete darkness in a bathroom. You have food.
1-to-1.
1-to-1 for 100K. That's a crazy bet. I think you would go crazy at some point. So,
yeah, we'll have to read about that.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting news. We can talk about that another time. But yeah. Oh, he didn't give up. The guy not in the bathroom asked for a buyout. Thanks, Dave. Interesting. So the guy not in the bathroom was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna lose this." So he got him to settle.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read about that.
Nor can I. All right, buddy. You want to talk a little TV?
Oh, do you want to do that now? Sure, we could do that. I was gonna save that for the end, but we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well. I think we could. This might go for a while, and then we get. Or did you have another question you wanted to get to first?
Well, we had a couple. There was one just in chat. I mean, this is a fun one too. Just some of our most memorable NFL tournament sweats with regards to swings and probability. There's a lot that come to mind. I'll give one real fast, and it's funny. I was randomly on YouTube this morning. I watched the clip. I was in a Thunderdome on the bubble during the playoffs with Diggs, and when he caught that catch against the Saints, that was good. But for both of us, we've just done a lot of we've played a lot, so there's so many that come to mind both ways. I've caught some great breaks, and I've caught some crippling ugly ones.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that stands out to me is my first one, and I think that it's that way for a lot of people. But it was the Geno Smith holding off the Miami Dolphins. It was back when they had the Sunday to Monday sweats, and so I had a bunch of people that were 6, 7, 8 points behind me. Dolphins were the chalk defense. for a good reason, because they were going up against Geno Smith, and he handed the ball off like 40 times, and they scored. The Dolphins scored like 5 points, and I held down the tournament. So pretty nice. I was not a favorite to win that. I will put it that way.
Pretty good. All right, yeah. Like I said, you're driving this ship. We can do TV now. I do have a handful of questions that we will get to.
Okay, yeah. There was a good question because you're a big college head, and someone wanted to know your thoughts on bowl season and the college football playoffs and what's coming up there. Do you want to discuss that for a minute?
Absolutely. So yeah, quick housekeeping. I'm going to be doing bowl previews, so keep an eye on that. Be tweets. We'll drop it in Slack. It'll be on the website. Breaking down the games from not just a DFS standpoint, from a betting standpoint, because it is bowl season. You get teams who A, really don't know much about each other, and B, there are a lot of guys in flux. Coaches leave. Like Appalachian State's coach, he took the Louisville job. So like everything is changing on the fly there. I think, there's value in things like that. It's similar to what you're talking about with the Eurogolf. If you dig on these games, you can find some stuff. Guys are sitting, preparing for the NFL. In terms of the playoff itself, it should be interesting. I expect, like most, Bama and Clemson to play again. I think Oklahoma has a better chance than Notre Dame, to be honest. If one of them is going to go down, I would say it would be Alabama. But yeah, stay tuned on the bowl. We will definitely be providing content this year for sure.
I like it. What's your favorite bowl?
I know the bowl names are just like, it's just absurd how many. You got the Camila Bowl and the New Orleans Bowl. It's like, it's just unreal.
Yeah. When I was like a kid, I've never followed college sports, but I knew of its existence, right? It was like New Year's Day was the day you watched college.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, it was like before even really the sponsors, and it was just it was like cotton, sugar, rose, and orange, and those were the bowls. Now they're still there. They're just like the Nokia Sugar Bowl, right?
Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
Right, but like the Fiesta Bowl, I don't even think existed back then. Now, isn't that the biggest one? Is that the championship? Or
so what they've done? It's a stupid. They have like a rotation of like a couple of those are the semifinals. One's so they move in and out. Like some years they're playoff games, and then other years they're just like big bowls. Obviously, traditionally the Rose Bowl is the winner of the Big Ten, winner of the Pac-12, used to be now Pac-12. So it's like USC, Ohio State, stuff like that would be like a big, but it changes.
I should go. I literally live in walking distance to the Rose Bowl. Like that would be a lot of fun, but we'll see.
Yeah, Ohio State, Washington. Not the best game, but Anyway, one to you, because this is certainly not for me. We had a question just about, are there certain sports that you're more inclined to use, say, like Fantasy Cruncher for, or vice versa, build by hand? Do you really factor in what sport you're playing for DFS?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I will use Cruncher for almost anything, but certain sports you have to pay more attention to, if that makes sense. Like basketball is a little easier because you're not really worried about stacking. You just got to make your groups of which players you don't want to play together more than anything else. But after that, you can kind of let it go. Unless if it's a really small slate, then you're trying to stack games. Like tonight, it's a 3-game slate. I will be stacking games for that because the chance, if one of them goes to overtime, it's going to be a big deal. But, like in NFL, I use Cruncher, but typically for me, I do each team separately, like each quarterback basically that I'm starting with. So I'll make, 10 different crunches for 10 different quarterbacks and then combine them. Just because, like I said, I kind of like to do the by hand in Cruncher thing where I make a few at a time. I just find it really sketchy, like for something like football, where it's really important to hit your quarterback with the right pairings. You want to be stacking your quarterback with players on his team. You want to be stacking with players on the other team, unless the other team totally stinks. Like I had a lot of Steelers stacks last week without any Oakland guys running it back, so you can't just set a rule and let it fly for 150 in football. Golf is kind of like that, where you gotta, you can, but you build a group of your skill sets or your tee times or what have you, because that's something that we talk about correlating a lot. We'll get into that on golf shows more, but yeah, I think basketball and baseball are the ones that are easiest to use Cruncher for. I think football and golf require a little more nuance. Oh, hockey is... I've played 5 times in my life. It's so easy to use Cruncher for hockey. It's great. I see why people get addicted to it. You can set it up in like 5 minutes.
Would you say, I know it's a little question because obviously you're not going to know, but do you think the majority of people are touching their crunches in terms of, say, football? Like, how many people are just like blindly spraying 150 like that?
I don't know the answer. I doubt a ton. I think if nothing else, like there are, like our bosses, for instance, like I know that they do let it fly, but they're not blind crunching. They're setting up like very extensive groups beforehand, and I think that's what most of the sort of top pros do. I think a lot of the top pros honestly have their own optimizers. Like it's not because Cruncher does have it's a great product. We don't work for Cruncher, so I don't even have to say that. But I think it's really fantastic. But there's occasional limitations on it. I run into things that I would like to be able to do that I can't sometimes, so then I'm going through and kind of going by hand. They've made it really easy to change the lineups right on the site now, which is nice, like instead of having to do it on DraftKings. I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always wonder about that because, I'm more of a build by hand person. I just how many people are just like, setting some stuff and crunching and then like, I can't even really speak to it because I'm so unfamiliar, but like how many times they do it? Are they just taking that first optimal, lineup and using that in single entry and high stakes, or is it a different type of process? I know it varies from person to person, obviously.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think what a lot of people do is build like 900 lineups and just straight randomize which one goes into which tournament,
fascinating.
Which is just it's wild. Everyone's got their own thing. And things come and go, like things, like different things are in vogue. Obviously we see it with who's the top player. The top player is always changing, right? Like it was, Kandia for a while, and it was Sahil, and now it's our boss. Like, Sahil, I think, sort of legendarily had like he was very good at. He had like some outsourcing where he was like he was basically able to react to news much faster than anyone else could. This was before we had like universal easy CSV edits. So he was just like a very good computer guy and was able to change on the fly a lot faster than, normal people. So that was kind of where he rose to the top. And then, there was even the brothers in the interim. Like they kind of took him down last year in football. But, it's a lot of different strategies, a lot of different things will work. A lot of different things won't work. I think, anyone that's good at DFS too, it's like, it's like real sports, right? Like any coach that's just like doing the same thing they were doing 15 years ago isn't particularly successful. Like you have to be evolving all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are commonplace now in DFS that a couple years ago were, it was like, it's a given now, but 2 years ago it was like an edgy thing to do. Hey, Celia's in chat. We miss you too, Celia.
Hey, what's up?
And yeah, Kawhi, I'm not paying attention to the NBA too strongly right here, but if the line went off the board, Kawhi is that's something to monitor. Plenty of time to react, obviously.
Yeah, we are getting a lot of NBA chatter in the chat. We don't want to step on our other guys' toes. There's plenty of NBA content here. There will be 2 more shows this afternoon that you can check out with dear friends of ours. But what I would recommend, I do NBA projections behind the paywall here at Awesemo.com, so check those out. You can get a 7-day free trial if you want to check them out. Use the promo code from A to B. Yeah, make us look good. And if Kawhi is out, I'm gonna, I'm on the show right now, but I'll gonna update the projections as soon as we get off.
Sure. You never been to a bowl game, right? That was asked too.
Me? No,
I haven't either. I'd love to go. I try to get to some good stuff each year. Never been to a bowl game. Have you
been to like the giant college football game though?
Yeah, I mean I've been to Penn State game.
Okay. Is UMass a huge college? I mean, I know it's a huge campus, but do they?
No. They were like not a powerhouse, but really good in DAA. So they would like make the playoffs and then lose. Then they transitioned when I was there to Division I, and now they're like absolutely terrible.
Were you and Victor Cruz there at the same time?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe 1 year.
Because you're definitely older than Tajay Sharp, but I bet Victor Cruz is younger than you think, because they always are.
Yeah, I might have been. I mean, I think he was definitely at the tail end.
Yeah, he's 32, so he would have been like a senior when you were a freshman.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, bowl season is really fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a good time. We'll see.
Yeah, the Onslaught Showdown talk. We were close. That's a perfect example of what you're saying. That's becoming more commonplace each week. Like, not that we invented that, but like little strategies get implemented and become a given when people have time to study it and they figure out what works, and then you got to evolve.
Yeah, it is a bummer to have not like really hit, because
you were doing that before. I
picked that up very early, that was like a good idea to do. Whatever. And
it took me 15 weeks to even understand Showdown. Like, I'm not even sure I'm there. Like, I'm getting better, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, at least the guy who took all the money was my buddy Drewby, so I'm happy for him to have done it. If someone was going to do it.
But anyway, all right. A couple more questions, and then I want to hear about these. We're doing just comedies, right?
Yeah, I think so. Just because we were talking about, do we do favorite TV shows, and it's like that's 2 hour long show. So let's just do comedies. Maybe we'll hit some other ones in other mailbags.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting question, though, and it's a good one. Do you play on any of the smaller sites?
Not as much as I should.
I think that's the answer for not every person, but for the majority of people.
Yeah. Yahoo years ago, when they first were they'd had it for a bit, but when they sort of decided they were going to push their product again, they offered like a double, deposit bonus. I'm like, what is wrong with my brain? They offered a double your deposit bonus, but in the way like they do on any site where you...
Like a drip.
Yeah, it's a drip. So I still have like, it was $2,000. They would give you up to $4,000 if you would deposit $2,000. So I did that. I still have like 2,800 of that to grind through, because it's so hard. Like, getting action on Yahoo is really difficult. It's a great site for like beginners, because they make it very difficult for people who want to get volume to get volume. Like, you can't change with a CSV. You can't like mass multi-enter. Most of the things are 10 max. You can't crunch for it. Like, it's just, it's hard to get.
Yeah, I think that's...
Sorry, you can crunch for it, but I don't know if you can upload your crunches. I haven't tried hard enough. So, but there's
a lot of sites. It becomes, I know for me, it's just a time thing. Yeah. Like, on Sunday mornings, I'm on a show. I'm in Slack. I'm on FanDuel and DraftKings. I built, for me, I acknowledge I don't do things the most efficient way. So like, I don't have as much time as I would like to maybe hit some of the softer sites. And there's no doubt that if you're really saying, you know what, I want to just like grind, I'm not looking to hit the big one, you should look into even Thrive Fantasy, which we've done some fun stuff with. You've got Fantasy Draft, there's Playline, there's a lot of sites out there to make, you're not going to win the milli, of course, but you can turn whatever you want into, you have a better chance of grinding it up. And then maybe you take some of that money and put it on the bigger sites for a big payday chance.
Yeah, there's some big... I mean, Fantasy Draft, I feel bad. I really like that site. It's too bad. It seems like they're...
solid site.
Yeah. But they had a live final with like $250K to first place last year. Like that. I mean, there are tournaments for you out there. Now, I play on Fantasy Draft some, but yeah, another thing, it's a time thing, but it's also like a prioritization of your money. Like we talk about this often when we mention exposure to certain players, right? It's like, okay, I'm playing in the, I've got this guy on my 555. Like, that counts, that's a lot more money than if I've got this guy on 50 of my $5 lineups. Like, it's more about your exposure in terms of dollar value. That's where I struggle on Yahoo. It's like, if I've got, because I play a fair amount, but if I've got several $1,000s out there on DraftKings, like, getting $100 in on Yahoo can almost just be a distraction, and it's not really worth it.
That's what I'm saying. It becomes it's an opportunity cost, because like when you break down a slate, it's not like you break it down longer if you want to play. Like you can break down a slate and then play $1 on it, or 500,000 if you get the money down. It's just tough to do a new site, different pricing, different scoring, and then you're only getting down 1/50th of the volume for your week if you're devoting a third of your time to it. It just doesn't jive.
Yeah, definitely. ADFS is, what growth strategies do you see the DFS sites community implementing to increase the player pool across all sites? I feel as though the DFS community is approaching an invisible growth asymptote. I think so too. That's a $1 million question, man.
Betting's the answer if there is one. They're gonna have to get creative. In my opinion, it's becoming legal more and more. I was maybe naive I thought for the most part, if you wanted to bet, you were betting. I don't think that's the case. I'm kind of shocked about that, to be honest, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be drawn in from that. And if they can make creative, I don't know the legality of this stuff, but I think it would be awesome to have like Sunday contests where you're picking, it's like parlay cards almost. Like
that's what I think they should do. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
And that's what Boom tried to do that, and Thrive is doing that now. And they were two
that's props, but same concept.
Right. Sorry. But yeah, you have a giant, a GPP of a parlay card or prop bets or whatever. Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Like for college football, a bowl pool on DraftKings, like, $500, 200 people, everyone picks every game against the spread. How fun would that be? Like, we'll see what happens, but yeah. I don't know. In terms of straight DFS, they're going to have to get creative because clearly it's not 2015 anymore.
No. It's weird how fast it just... Because remember when the Ethan thing happened and it was like, is this really even news? It's like, oh yeah, that was news.
I wasn't even really around, to be honest. Like, I was around, but not really.
That was like... Because I'd been around for... Like, I'd won a couple big tournaments at that point, so I was playing real heavily. So I think I started. It was like I played starting in like 2012. I think it was whatever the Dwight Howard Lakers season was. I was playing on Draft Street a lot. I heard about it because Matthew Berry talked about it talked about Draft Street on the Fantasy Focus podcast at one point. And I was like a hardcore, local league guy, and I found a way to get on Draft Street. Started playing there, and it was funny because I went on a heater to start. I was playing cash games. And I turned $20 into like 800 in 2 weeks or something like that. And it was like, I'm in college. It's like, this is amazing. I'm never gonna lose. And then obviously just got murdered. And then I realized, like looking back, like the people that were in that, it was Dink Piece, Makasupa, Soccer Dave, like Al Smizzle. Like those are the people that I'm playing in 20-man double ups against. It's like, of course I was gonna eventually get rolled. Those guys were way ahead of the game. But yeah, then 2014 I was playing pretty seriously. It was like a big part of my income by the time the 2015 season rolled out. And I'm from Portland, Maine, which is an hour and a half from Boston. And like you go to Boston, it's like, that's where DraftKings is headquartered. And it's just like you get off the train and it's just like DraftKings everywhere. Like every bench is covered in DraftKings gear. It was like, this is the biggest thing ever. And then
that was... I mean, the commercials were on every day, like every hour on the hour, it felt like. But yeah, I wasn't really around then. I was playing, but like I only started playing more than one lineup like 2 years ago. So that was about it. All right. What Ethan thing? There was back in the day, employees of DraftKings could play on FanDuel and vice versa. There was a whole fiasco with ownership projections, and then they started getting more serious about enforcing rules, basically, to give you a very short and dirty version.
Really short and dirty answer of like what kind of went wrong in the DFS industry is these sites they tried to go from like some buddies that are computer programmers like that like to play games against each other to like multi-billion-dollar companies in way too short of a time, and they just weren't ready for it. Because like when you're developing, it makes sense to have the people that work for you also playing the games so that they know what works and what's gonna be better. But then when you're all of a sudden in bed with ESPN, like you gotta get your act together, and you can't...
checks and balances just weren't up to par. But
and basically this kid that worked at DraftKings won like 350 on FanDuel and the world cried foul and blah blah blah.
Yeah, Dave Clark. That's what I'm talking about. Horse racing, which as you can see, I love to bet the ponies. They have awesome contests like that. Not as prevalent as they were, but like even there was a site called Derby Wars. It was like that. You get like play money, you pick different horses in the races, and it's a aggregate cumulative pool. They can get creative and drive some new traffic, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Do you want to start from like the bottom? Do you want to just like name the obvious top ones? Like, how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's funny.
Do you just have the two?
I really am not a huge. I love I've seen a ton of TV, ton of movies. I've watched Seinfeld my entire life. I love Curb.
That's the two.
Yeah, no, I know. That's the two. I don't really have. I'll give two, and they're not that they're dark horses, but I think I like more. I loved Entourage. Like, it was such a fun show to pregame and just have a good time, have in the background. It went downhill fast. And then Frasier. I think Frasier is very clever, good show, but not even in the same league as Curb and Seinfeld.
Yeah, Frasier's good. That kind of made my list of maybe, but I didn't quite get there because there were other ones I wanted to hash out. Entourage I never really got into. I mean, I've seen a few episodes here and there, but
it's quality.
I hate the characters, which I know you're kind of supposed to, and that doesn't necessarily bother me most of the time, but it was too much.
You gotta give it a chance, like most things. You would, but I'd venture to say when you're gonna rattle off shows here, I'm gonna tell you I haven't seen most of them.
I know. This was a stupid idea.
Was Silicon Valley on there?
No. I like that show, but there's just others I kind of like more.
Like what, Modern Family?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay, maybe. All right, what is on this list? I want to hear this now.
I don't know. I mean, I put a lot of stuff. I put some effort into this. I'm embarrassed about it now.
What? No, this is good. I want to hear what I've really. Yeah, I know Entourage that's a somewhat cold take. I understand. It was good at the beginning though. It just got real bad real fast.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few episodes and I laughed. Like the Jeremy Piven's really funny in it. Like I get it, but
there's some good characters, obviously. What do you got? I want to hear this.
Yeah, I mean,
give me a taste here. Let's go.
Well, listen, the thing, I think what this was brought on by was last night we were having a discussion with some of our friends about Seinfeld and how it goes from, because I watched it I was in middle school when it kind of hit its first heyday and watched it throughout that and through high school some too, and I liked it back then. I didn't get the jokes at all. When you're a kid and you watch it, it's oh, Kramer's the funniest character. And then you get into your 20s, and then I binged it and was oh my god, this is an incredible show. I love this. And George becomes your favorite character.
Obviously, yes.
And then, now when I watch it, the best character, hands down, is Elaine. She's so funny.
Elaine's great. I'll maybe it'll evolve for me. George is by far. Yeah, what a
he's
goat.
Good. He just becomes a little over the top almost in the way that Kramer was Kramer's annoying now when you watch it.
Oh yeah. No.
And I find George to be a little bit I don't know. It's partially because Larry David kind of perfected the Larry David better than Jason Alexander did on Curb. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, and George is great, but I'm a huge Elaine fan. Which brings me to Veep. Have you watched that?
No.
You got to, man. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just a treasure. She's so good in it. There's a huge stable of amazing characters in that show. Very funny.
I want to bring this up because this is an excellent. It's not even a point from chat, but Daniel says, "Always Sunny." Have you ever seen that?
I was gonna ask about that.
Okay.
Have you?
I have, and I didn't give it a full chance. I thought it was fine. I didn't hate it. It just reminded me of Seinfeld on crack. It was just out of control.
Yeah. It's Seinfeld with no rules, absurdist Seinfeld. It's just a bunch of shitty people you follow around doing terrible things, but it's next level how bad it is. I will say, I watched it the first couple seasons it was out, I watched it pretty regularly, probably through 3 or 4 seasons, and then, I mean, it's 15 seasons in or something now. Also, those people are so rich. They own that show themselves. Rob McElhenney owns it, and it's all syndicated all the time. That guy, I don't even want to think about how much money that guy's worth, but it's a ton. Okay, I guess my take on It's Always Sunny. Every time I watch it, I really enjoy it. I think it's really, really funny, but it never like makes it's sort of like empty calories almost. It like doesn't make me want to go back.
No, that's fair. I totally get that. Oh, The League. That's a good one from chat too. I saw that and I liked that. I could have, if I would have thought of that, I would have mentioned it. That was quality.
A good one. Yeah, I enjoyed that show. I saw most of it.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't like must see, like where I'm like, oh my god. But I watched The League and I enjoyed it.
I saw the Kevin guy do stand up one time. The guy who lied about 9/11 too. That was a weird story. And then the like main dude is He's like an independent. He's one of the Duplass brothers. He's good. Nick Kroll is amazing on his own. You know who is hysterical in other forms is the guy who plays Raffi, Jason Mantzoukas. Like that character, honestly, is a little much for me to take in The League. The like scummy brother.
I don't know anything. What else is that guy in?
He does a lot of improv stuff. He's been in like movies here and there, but he does a bunch of podcasts. Like he's just a guy that, just like having him just talk in a room, I could listen to for hours. He's just a hysterical dude. Jason Mantzoukas. Right? Wait, is that who I'm thinking of? Is Jason Mantzoukas? That's not the SNL guy, is it? Am I screwing this up?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're the wrong person to ask here. But
I'm really the wrong person.
Make sure I got the right guy. I'm pretty
sure.
What
do we got? The League was solid. I was right. I will watch more Sunny.
Yeah, Sunny's good. Did you watch Eastbound and Down?
Yeah, Eastbound and Down is good.
Yeah.
Another one, like the first season of that is like hysterical, and
but it get like I think I'm with you. The second, like the Mexico and the Myrtle Beach ones were not as good, but the fourth season is awesome. Like it gets really good, and it's like heartwarming.
So for me, I have like two different categories. There are shows like that. If it's on the TV, I'll watch it, but like I could go without like. Curb, when Curb comes, a new season, like I will make sure I watch every episode.
Okay.
Eastbound and Down. You ever see Summer Heights High?
No.
That's like an absurd. Like I've seen pieces of that. There's shows, but I'm more into like. Honestly, I know this kind of sounds weird. The shows that I find hysterical a lot are not comedies, like Succession. Hysterical.
That's 100% a comedy though. It just sucks you in and it doesn't make you think it's a comedy for a while because it's like a bait and switch. Yeah, that show is so good. Everyone out there who hasn't seen Succession, like give it a try. And it's weird because you might not like it at first. It does not come across as a comedy. It comes across as like this really weird like Billions-y family drama, but it's just funny. Eastbound, like okay, so one just like watching people just be utterly profane around children is amazing comedy to me. And Danny which Danny is it? The Kenny Powers, whatever the actor is. Danny McBride.
Yeah.
Him just dropping F-bombs in front of kids I don't know, it's so funny. Also, the Will Ferrell, did you see the one with Will Ferrell in the first season with the cart? Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Like hilarious.
Just unreal.
No, it's very good. I'm not, but I don't know. I'm more like of a rewatch. I'll go drama. Like I'm more apt to rewatch Sopranos than a comedy. Seinfeld's on my TV. Celia just asked, how do we have time to watch TV? I watch a lot of TV. I have multiple screens, which makes it nice. And I think it's fair to say I multitask a little better. Like I can have multiple things on and be on my computer and kind of keep my rhythm a little. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I didn't as much for years, but like it's actually easier living on the West Coast because all the games are done by 10:30. So like I'm not being a loser to stay up for another hour after sports are over. Whereas like on the East Coast, it's like, okay, everything's done at 1:30.
Yep.
Like, I need to be up. Like here I can watch, you can watch a little bit of TV afterwards. So speaking of that, I think the one that I go back to rewatch a lot now, and I think this is very common, but The Office, like both of them, but the American one I tend to rewatch more. It's more like heartwarming. Like the British one is more, it's kind of, I think the British one's funnier, but it's like really awkward and can be tough to watch.
But I've never seen the British one. I've only seen the American one sporadically, to be honest, which is like a pretty bad take, I'm sure.
Deadlift just pointed out that Eastbound is where Gary Woodland's nickname came from. Those familiar
There you
with
go.
Golf Slack, good to know.
No, I was saying I haven't seen The Office a ton.
Okay. It's great, man. I mean, it's a little... I think you should start with the British one, because that's more like darker humor. They're like, the people in The Office in the American one are actually pretty good people for the most part, or they're trying hard at least.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I've watched. It's not like I don't like the show. I've just never was like, I need to start from the beginning and like rattle all through this.
No, and that's kind of what's great about it, is you don't need to do that, period. It's kind of like Seinfeld, where you can drop in and watch 3-4 episodes here and there, and it's just good. Same thing. Did you ever get into, I'm imagining not, but Parks and Rec or 30 Rock?
Not. I've seen some 30 Rock, but no, not really. Parks and Rec. Is that with Allison Brie? Or is that Community?
That's Community. Parks and Rec is Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman and
Adam I'm not.
The other Adam Scott. Adam Scott. He's probably a better putter than our Adam Scott.
20% of Netflix streams. That's absurd.
What? The Office is 20% of Netflix? Yeah, I believe it. And our boy, one of my favorite people on Twitter, which is like is Mossy. And he's always he loves The Office.
Mossy knows. And Celia, we love you. We miss you. Appreciate the love in chat. Anything else on the DFS side before we
get to my top 5?
Oh yeah, I didn't know if that was getting done. I gave you an out there, but I want to hear about this.
I did have more. I mean, I did have more stuff. But no, not really. I don't know. Do you have more DFS stuff to talk about? It's kind of a slow day. It's a 3-game NBA slate. We got plenty of shows coming up where we're going to talk about football. This golf tournament's a joke. No one wants to hear about the golf tournament.
No. I think, this is, like I said, a Q&A. Three fellas, the only thing, and we say this every show now because it's important, it's only a benefit to you. It is in the midst of the cyber Christmas holiday spirit. We are giving away every day. Someone's going to win a month pass to any sport you want. All you got to do, like the video. You should do that anyway because we do appreciate it. And then after it ends, we want you to drop your favorite show or whatever you want, really, in the actual comments of the video. If you do that, you'll be eligible for the raffle at the end of the day. And if you win, you get a free month of anything on the site for sports. So we do appreciate that. And you're in the drawing for the year-long pass at the end. So do that and free roll it. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple people won from this show.
It's true.
All right, so check it out.
Nathan For You. Have you ever heard of that?
My man, Caleb Dillon. I'm actually, so Caleb will know, the judge from Nathan For You, who actually just recently passed away, his daughter is a friend of mine. She dates one of my good friends. They live in Hancock Park, which is not far from where I live. We hang out sometimes. But yeah, Nathan For You, you would like that, Ben. It's like your style. It's super
I've never
dry.
even heard of it.
It's like this guy who's he's playing a character, but he's supposed to be like this mediocre Canadian businessman, business school kid. He's, in between our ages, early 30s.
Is there a star of it, or is it just random?
Yeah, Nathan.
No, but an actual actor that I would know.
No, it's Nathan Fiedler. It's just him, and it's like a prank. No, it's not scripted. It's partially scripted, but he goes into these businesses and gives ideas for how to improve them based on his business school acumen. Like, dude, it's hard to sell it, but it's so hysterical.
What channel
and
is that?
I don't know, Hulu, Comedy Central, I think.
Whatever, I'll investigate.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, you can get anything.
It's all out there.
Mindhunter.
I really enjoyed that, but that's not very funny.
Yeah, Showdown last night. There was a lot of people like that. The man I'm doing this podcast with included. Like you had a team. I think it had all 6. You just had the wrong captain, and you weren't even quote unquote close. Really, you were in like the top 500, but not. It was that kind of slate.
Yep.
But,
yeah, that was 188. Ponto we had the same best lineup again. We would have chopped with 20 people.
Yeah, I saw you guys. I wasn't even close, but
yeah,
cashed enough. Anyway,
And then my favorites ever, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I want to hear those.
Freaks and Geeks and The Simpsons. Did you watch Freaks and Geeks?
I have never seen an episode of either of those shows. I've never seen a Simpsons in my life.
Okay. Yeah, The Simpsons is because it was, by the time you were 10, it was terrible. But, you know,
I'm just not a big like Family Guy.
I'm not a that's where I was gonna go. I'm not a cartoon guy. Like I don't like Family Guy. I South Park's fine. I don't like the 27 Family Guy spinoffs. I don't even like, like BoJack Horseman and Rick and Morty, like sharp people whose taste I trust, really like those shows. Those are more recent.
BoJack Horseman?
Yeah, it's literally supposed to be amazing. Like,
what the hell is that?
Wrong choice of literally, dude. I can't explain plot synopses. Yeah, it's supposed to be really good.
That sounds like a DraftKings name that I would see up there, and I'd be like, oh, BoJack Horseman's gonna win the Millie. Like,
yep.
Shady.
The Simpsons was just such a big deal to me as a kid. I had an uncle who was like obsessed with it, and he had all these VHS tapes of it. So that was like my first kind of binge show. I got all the jokes. Like, there was a time where I was watching it and I was the same age as Bart. That was a long time ago. I don't know. The first like 7-8 seasons of The Simpsons was just it was just great. Just really
nothing
good
against The Simpsons. I just never got into it. The only time I see it, honestly, is when the NFL games end and I'm not paying attention and on one of the TVs, it's like The Simpsons is on.
Right, but it's season 37 and like it hasn't been good. Like it's legitimately you don't want to see it past season 10 and it's just been going forever. But
yeah, I'm sure it's a show doesn't stay on that long unless it's somewhat viable.
I mean, Conan O'Brien was like one of the big writers on it for before he started his Late Show. You should watch the Monorail episode sometime, man. All-time classic.
I'll do that.
And then Freaks and Geeks is like what launched the whole Judd Apatow empire. So it stars every single person in it. Not every single, but like it's all famous people still. Like it launched the careers of Seth Rogen, James Franco, Busy Phillips is in it, Jason Segel, like every big comic actor now. I don't know. There's 10 more. Martin Starr, the Guilfoyle from Silicon Valley. That was where he got his start.
BoJack Horseman. I'm gonna have to do some research after the show on BoJack.
Stop talking about BoJack Horseman.
People know that just sounds intriguing. I always you ever scroll through. There are some random DFS.
I'm so tilted right now. I'm trying to tell you about a legitimately great show, and you're just like,
I know. I'm sorry.
BoJack Horseman should win the Millionaire Maker.
I'm not giving Freaks and Geeks its due. I'm not. I'll admit that. I'm just stuck on this name. That's every so often you never scroll in like the Millie and just like a certain name just like sticks out.
Yeah, Prostitute last night was like winning Showdown for a while. I was like, oh wow, that's a funny name.
About to say that. Yep. There's someone named, I think it's Artful Possum. You ever see that name?
Sure.
Like I have no idea who these people are. Like I don't even know if they play like high stake. Obviously, if you play like, especially up there, it's the same people. Like you get to know the names. But then every so often there's just like Joe Buck Safe Word, who's definitely a player. I think it's a hysterical name.
That's pretty good.
Hot Magic. Nurkic, and maybe I will play some
Buddy.
Before you, okay, yeah. That's a good point. Stockman just said I probably should prioritize The Simpsons before BoJack Horseman.
Yes. The Simpsons and Freaks and Geeks are literally like 2 of my 5 favorite television shows ever, like across genre. So like, I don't know. Freaks and Geeks might be a little like sentimental for. Do you like Apatow's stuff?
Not really.
No.
I mean,
do you like 40-Year-Old Virgin or Superbad or any of that? Like,
not. Is he forgetting Sarah Marshall? I love that movie.
Okay, well he's Jason Segel is also Freaks and Geeks. Like all of those, it's like their first. It's the first stuff for most of them.
I'm not like I didn't like Pineapple Express. I thought that was just like over the top.
That's the Eastbound and Down crew. That's David Gordon Green, the director.
No respect.
It's produced by Apatow, but
there's a lot of them. Yeah, I find them funny. Like, but BoJack Horseman. That won the day. I've just never heard of that show in my life.
It's like super famous. Will Arnett is the voice of he's like an alcoholic actor who's a horse. I don't know. It's a super wacky premise. Like that was my point. I don't really get into stuff like that, but The Simpsons also was like kind of a family drama for its first several seasons. So like you start to care about the characters, and what sort of bothers me about cartoons sometimes is just they're too wacky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line with me when it's just like over the top. That's kind of my problem with like Family Guy. It's just, to me, it's a little much.
There's
like,
no story. It's just joke.
That's what I'm saying. There's no story. It's like, okay, it's just clever pun after clever whatever's going on.
I think BoJack I think it's a pretty strong story. I think it's pretty sad.
The sad horseman.
I love that you're just like so shocked by it. It's 2018, dude. People do everything. Like everything has been, the wacky stuff is done all the time.
I'm not shocked. It's just every so often you just hear something that's like, and I consider myself, like I'm full of useless knowledge. Like I'm good with Jeopardy type stuff. I'm good at like pop culture stuff. I've just never heard of the show. That's kind of surprises me. Mm-hmm. But BoJack.
Would you like it better if it was BoJack Quetzalman?
Yeah, I'm all about animal. Put like in DraftKings, I will notice an animal team name immediately.
BoJack Hyraxman is going to be your next big show.
I'm going to do some research.
You ever watch Louie? That's also not really a comedy, but
no.
It was, rest in peace. It was really good.
Oh, yeah. You ever see Beavis and Butt-Head?
Yep.
Yeah, never seen that.
Yeah, because you're too old for it. I was like that was like when I was in middle school, and it was like parents like you're not allowed to watch this. It was like a big deal phenomenon, and like people actually lit shit on fire because of it.
So it's funny you say that.
That's the Silicon Valley guy.
Huh. Wow. It's amazing how many of these people are the same people.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm trying to school you on some things, buddy.
I had friends. It's funny growing up, like my parents, solid people. They, I didn't have many. I was a good kid, so I could do what I want. So my friends would always come over and be like, let's watch all these shows. Cause like at my house, you could kind of do what you wanted.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we're not watching this garbage. Like we're putting on sports. So like I got infused for a couple of like shows like that by default for a little.
Yeah. No, my best friend and I, like in 8th grade, we would plan our like sleepovers around like when they had the Beavis and Butt-Head Moronathon on MTV, where they would play it from like 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. to like 3 in the morning, and we would just watch it all night and just crack up. It's so, it's just like great juvenile humor.
Shame.
I can't imagine it holds up particularly well.
We will get into that's our next one. Especially during this like downtime, we're gonna have some fun with some of these shows. Next thing I want to talk about is cartoons, but in like the Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, Doug. I want to get into those.
Ren and Stimpy was like around the same time as Beavis and Butt-Head, but those other ones I was too old for. I was 14, 15 by the time they came out, so you were 7 or whatever. So that was definitely your time. I saw them. My little sisters loved them, so like I saw them and didn't hate them. But Ren and Stimpy was actually too out there for me. That's the kind of cartoon I don't, it's just a little too wacky. I'd rather a more serious drama like BoJack Horseman.
I'm confusing Ren and Stimpy and the who takes over the world? Pinky.
Oh, Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain. The rats. I don't know the difference between them. Ren and Stimpy. Sorry. This was fun. Chad, we appreciate you indulging us. This is what makes this show fun. Because there is so much DFS. Every so often, you got to kind of deviate and have a nice balance. Last thing I'll say, quote, perfect ADFS, Legends of the Hidden Temple. On our next show, I will sport my Orange Iguanas shirt that I have. Love that show. Phenomenal.
Turn the heat up, bud.
Yeah. Olmec. Got to build the thing.
It's true. You wear it for golf shows sometimes, too, because you like to dress like Ricky Fowler.
Got to wear that orange. Or my bacon shirt. That's a good luck shirt.
All right. This was a blast. I want to keep doing these. I think we will, pick some topics and do kind of random mailbag kind of things. We'll keep it up. And hope, I mean, maybe we'll keep doing it into the golf season. I think we should. I think it's a good time.
Yeah, no, Chad, we want to hear from people. Obviously, if you have thoughts, like tweet either of us. We would love to get ideas from you because the show is here for you guys. Like we want to know what people want to talk about. So if you have an idea of a show that's not, because we have so much slate specific content, if you have other stuff you'd like to see, shoot us a tweet. We'll be happy to get into it.
Celia said Derek Carty was on Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I'm gonna have to investigate. I would Purple Parrots or the Red Jaguars. Can't think of all the teams. There's like 6 teams. It's hard to name them.
We'll have to look it up. I'm sure he modeled it so that he had a good win. I actually have a lot of respect for that guy. He's pretty good at what he does. He comes across weird on Twitter, and who doesn't?
Don't we all?
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Comment on the show afterwards to get entry into your free month of whatever sport you would like, and entry for the grand prize, which is
you gotta like the video too.
Yeah. Like the video. Comment on the actual video on YouTube, which will be open immediately after the show, not in this chat. But I appreciate you all commenting in the chat as well. All right, bud. Good hang. Talk to you all soon.